If you think aging is about decline, you've already lost the game. You wake up, look in the mirror, see new lines appearing, and feel like time is stealing something from you. But what if I told you that Kant discovered the secret 200 years ago and it has nothing to do with anti aging creams or positive thinking? In the next few minutes, I'll reveal the error that's draining your energy and stealing your peace as years pass. Kant wasn't just a philosopher locked in his study. He lived to 79 in an era when most died at 40, and he did it with crystal clear mental clarity until his final breath. This isn't about accepting old age. It's about understanding that you've been asking the wrong question your entire life. Like, now commit to this truth. The real battle isn't against time. It's against the illusion you've built around what aging means. The autonomy paradox. You spend your whole life running from dependency, yet that's exactly what you're creating. Every time you chase external validation, you're building invisible chains. It's like walking on broken glass barefoot while pretending the pain makes you stronger. Kant called this radical autonomy, not the independence you think you know. Real autonomy means your happiness doesn't live in someone else's pocket. You don't need your children to visit every weekend to feel whole. You don't need society's approval to validate your existence. Think about your grandfather sitting on that porch, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to remember he exists. That's not old age. That's the consequence of building your identity on borrowed ground. The elderly who suffer most aren't those whose bodies fail. They are the ones whose sense of self was always rented from others. Here's what nobody tells you about aging. The body deteriorates, yes, but if your worth was always external, you're not losing your body, you're losing yourself. Because you never actually had yourself to begin with. You were just holding someone else's mirror. But wait, this creates a strange liberation. When you realize your happiness was never supposed to come from outside, aging becomes different. You stop performing for an audience that was never really watching. You stop chasing validation from a world that's already moved on to younger faces. Duty, as the antidote to meaninglessness. You've been told to follow your passion, find your purpose, discover your why. Meanwhile, you're drowning in a sea of options, paralyzed by infinite possibilities. It's like standing in a desert dying of thirst while holding a map to every ocean. None of it helps. Kant had a brutal answer: forget passion, embrace duty, not the soul crushing duty your job demanded, moral duty, the duty to be rational, to be consistent, to treat others as ends in themselves, never merely as means. This sounds cold until you realize what it actually means. When you're 70 and your body won't cooperate, passion disappears. That fire you felt at 25 turns to ash. If your entire life was built on feeling good, aging becomes torture. Every morning you wake up with less energy is a morning you lose purpose. But duty doesn't care how you feel. Imagine this: you're 75, sitting across from your grandchild who just failed at something important. Passion says, I don't feel like dealing with this today. Duty says, this moment matters, regardless of my energy level. You show up because it's right, not because it's exciting. That's the difference between those who age into bitterness and those who age into dignity. And here's the secret that changes everything. When you build your life on duty rather than feeling, Aging doesn't steal your purpose. Your purpose becomes clearer because duty only asks one question: what's the right thing to do right now? And you can answer that question until your last breath, regardless of what your body is doing. The mind's independence from the body's decay. Your body is betraying you. That's what you think every time something hurts that didn't hurt before. You look at old photos and mourn the person who could run, dance, move without calculating the cost. It's like watching a fortress crumble stone by stone while you're still inside. But Kant discovered something that doctors miss and motivational speakers won't tell you. Your rational faculty exists independently of your physical state. This isn't positive thinking nonsense. This is philosophical architecture. The part of you that thinks, reasons, makes moral decisions, that part doesn't have an expiration date stamped on it. Consider this: Stephen Hawking's body became a prison, yet his mind traveled further than most physically healthy people ever will. That's not inspiration porn, that's evidence. The consciousness that makes you human isn't stored in your muscles or your smooth skin, it lives somewhere else entirely. Here's where it gets strange. When you identify primarily with your body, aging is genuinely a loss. You lose speed, flexibility, appearance. But when you understand that your essential self is your rational mind, aging reveals a different truth. Your body was always just the vehicle, never the driver. And here's what this means practically. At 80, you might move slower, but you can still think with precision. You can still make rational choices. You can still treat people with dignity. You can still fulfill your moral duties. The only thing aging steals is the illusion that you were ever primarily a physical being to begin with. Categorical imperative as life compass. You've lived long enough to see patterns. You've watched people lie, cheat, manipulate, and justify it all with circumstances. I had no choice, they say. You don't understand my situation, they plead. It's like watching the same movie replay with different actors, same tragic ending. Kant's categorical imperative cuts through all of it. Act only according to principles you'd want to become universal law. Translation: before you do anything, ask yourself, what if everyone did this? If the answer makes the world collapse, don't do it. It's that simple and that brutal. This becomes your compass when you're old and the world feels foreign. Values shift, culture changes. What was once sacred becomes mockery. But if you've built your life on principles that would work if universalized, you don't need to bend with every wind. You have an anchor. Think about elderly people who become bitter, who complain that back in my day things were different. They're right, but they're suffering. Why? Because their values were always contextual, never universal. They were following trends, not principles. When the trends changed, they lost their footing entirely. But what if you lived differently? What if every decision you made passed through that filter? Would I want everyone to act this way? Then aging doesn't confuse you. The world can transform around you, but your moral clarity remains. You become like a mountain while everything else flows like water around you. Time passes, but you know exactly who you are and why. You began this video searching for answers about aging gracefully, but discovered something deeper. The right questions matter more than comfortable answers. What if everything you've called decline was actually clarification? What if aging isn't loss but distillation? Kant lived to 79 with his mind sharp as glass, not because he had better genetics or lucky circumstances. He had a framework that didn't depend on youth, beauty, energy, or society's approval. He knew something we keep forgetting. Happiness isn't what you feel, it's what you build with rational choices made consistently over time. And here's the truth that will haunt you. You're aging right now. Every second you spent watching this video, you got older. The question isn't whether you'll age. The question is whether you'll build your life on ground that holds when everything else crumbles. Will you choose autonomy or dependency, duty or feeling, rational mind or decaying body? Universal principles or shifting trends? Leave a comment with one word that captures what you're feeling right now. Like this if it challenged something you believed. Subscribe because the next video goes even deeper into what Kant understood about suffering that even the Stoics missed. The clock is ticking, but maybe that's not the threat you thought it was. Maybe it's the reminder you needed.